Cisco instructor Andrea here, and modules 1 and 2 from the CNT 150 class are all review. I don't know if there's really anything new in the class. However, I am going to cover a couple of the things that are really important that I want to make sure you do understand, starting with something in module 2, and that is how a switch works. We spent a lot of time in 140, so let's just do a quick review of that. So remember, the ports of a switch are really important. And the terms that you want to know is the ingress port. That means when the frame is coming into the switch, right? Also the egress port, that's when the frame is leaving the switch. So incoming, outgoing. You may also hear it as ingress or egress. So a switch forwards based on the information that's coming in to the ingress interface. Okay, and it starts to build a MAC address table, also called a CAM table. Okay, now here's another thing that I want you to just make sure you do know, and that is that a switch will never allow traffic to be forward out the port that it received the frame on. So if port F01 receives the frame and it's trying to go to a destination device and it doesn't know what the destination device is, it's going to flood out a broadcast frame trying to learn where it needs to send that frame to, but it will not flood out port 1 because it came on port 1. So it knows that it's not trying to go back to itself. The switch will use the destination MAC address to determine the egress interface. But remember, it learns MAC addresses when the frame comes into it. So when the frame comes into a port, it will record the port into its MAC address table, and then it will also record the associated MAC address. Okay, so let's take a look at this in a packet tracer. We're going to take a look at the way a MAC address table gets built by using Packet Tracer. I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but Packet Tracer has a really nice feature that allows us to inspect particular tables inside the device. And that's the magnifying glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to click on this magnifying glass, and then I'm going to use it to inspect the switch, and I'm going to choose the MAC table. Now, if we take a look at this, we can see that the MAC table has already learned some information. And that's because, remember, as soon as you turn a device on, it starts wanting to know and communicate with other devices. So in this scenario, we can see what VLAN the device belongs to. Now, right now, we've only ever dealt with VLAN 1, but in the next module, we're going to start learning a lot more about VLANs and virtual LANs, and we're going to see where this number becomes more important. We can see the MAC address here and what port it's associated with, okay? And so if we see 0090, 0CE6, 0301, that's associated with port 01. That is going to be the default gateway. So it's already learned about the default gateway because those devices are already talking and communicating. Let's go ahead and just verify that. So I can pull up the router and I can do a show command in order to verify that. And again, what I want to do is I want to look at the interface that is associated with, in this case, G00. And I want to see, is the MAC address of G00 0090CE6. So let's do a show interface G00. And what we should see is this number that I've already pre-recorded, the 00900CE6, 0, I think that's a 301. So what has happened is the MAC address table, also called a CAM table, has already recorded some information that it's been able to learn. So on port F01, the device and or interface that I would expect to find is that of the router. Let's see what happens when I pull up the PC. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send a ping out to the router. Hopefully you will already be thinking ahead and say to yourself, okay, as soon as that ICMP message goes into the port, the switch learns on the ingress port, it should record this F02 along with the MAC address that is associated with the PC. So let's go ahead and ping our default gateway. 20.1. Okay, and I want you to be watching over here. Okay, so what did it just record? It recorded that on port F02, the MAC address of the device that is associated with it is 000C854747B3. Now, I actually have already recorded the MAC address here just to make it easier for us. However, I can go ahead and confirm that by typing in ipconfig all. I can take a look and find the physical address for the PC, and sure enough, there it is. Now, another handy table that we want to take a look at is the ARP table, because between the ARP table and the MAC address table, we can pretty much trace out most all of our network. ARP tables are going to be functioning on routers and on PCs. The MAC address table resolves a port number to a MAC address, while the ARP tables are going to resolve a MAC address to an IP address, and it will also record a port. So let's go back to our inspection tool of the hourglass, the magnifying glass. And this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come and I'm going to inspect the router. And I'm going to choose the ARP table. And sure enough, it's already filled out some information. My IP address of my default gateway, 192.168.20.1, is associated with this MAC address, and it is associated with the gig00 port on the router. Also, I can see the PC, 192.168.20.2. It's associated with which MAC address. It has the gig00, and that's because, again, the ARP table is telling us that that MAC address is associated with the gig00. Like, that's where I could find that device if I needed to. Let's do another test. From PCA, let's see what happens with the MAC address table of the switch that it's associated with when it pings PCB, something that is on a remote network. What I'm hoping you recall is that MAC addresses don't leave the local area network. They're never going to go beyond their own default gateway. So if you were to make a prediction of what is going to go into this MAC address table, what do you think will be there? I hope what you're thinking is just the default gateway, because the remote network will have to be associated with the default gateway. Let's turn on our magnifying glass and investigate our MAC address table. Okay. Now I'm going to come over here, and from PCA, I'm going to ping PCB to see what happens. Okay. So the ping was successful, And let's take a look here. So we can see that our port is associated with VLAN 1. It went into the switch on F02, and the MAC address that is associated is the incoming 001 C914 1621 or 25. Now, why didn't it learn anything else? Well, that's because the IP address that's on this remote network, right, is associated with our default gateway, which has already been learned because the MAC addresses do not go past the default gateway. That's a pretty good recap of how the ARP tables and how the MAC address table works.